Hello, my name is Sharmila Beesmohan, and together with Sarah Sanders and Nick Chapman, we run Speaking Volumes live literature productions here in London in the UK. We've been celebrating our 10th anniversary with the anthology Not Quite Right for Us. We commissioned 40 authors to write poetry, fiction and non-fiction on the theme of Not Quite Right for Us. We're delighted to be sharing a film with you now of some of the poets from the anthology. You're going to be hearing from Australian poet Michelle Cahill, African-American poet Cheryl Martin, who is based in Manchester in the north of England, South African-born Australian resident John Mateer, mixed-race poet from Liverpool Ashley Nugent, Rishi Dastidar, who's of South Asian heritage and lives in London, the London-based poet Tim Wells, Helen Mort, who lives in Sheffield in the north of England, E. Ethelbert Miller, an African-American poet based in Washington, D.C., and Rafeef Ziadah, a Palestinian poet who lives in London and who previously lived in Canada. We really hope you enjoy their work and that you can check out Speaking Volumes at www.speaking-volumes.org.uk, and we hope to see you in person at the Hyderabad Literary Festival at some point in the future. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoy the film.
I am no acronym, nor a hyphen, but Indian in blood, colour, English in taste, tongue, Portuguese in spirit, my Christianity disinherited, freed by Dharma, an equal citizen, my skin measured by white space. I am not a subject to be read, bewildering, ironic, as the double tropes of conversion, patronised no longer, my mind captive to identity, to borders, dreaming this contrapuntal life revived in words. More of a pantomime girl, standing with the damp pigeons by the ashen river, blowing incandescent bubbles through metal loops of varied shapes and size as the crowd veers past her, trying to hold just one. Small things are grieved if one is stateless or weaponised by the state that cares only if we are alive or dead. First memories are cherished. I remember the pavilion, the merry-go-round, daffodils blooming, everything fizzing. I would rather parachute from the skies, speak a green rustle in dappled light, flare like autumn leaves, be a child running circles around a fountain as laughter echoes in a square canopied by elders, giant trees. But a white boy teased me, someone else spat, so that right here in this juvenile courtroom forever locked, my colonial subject was stamped, doubly betrayed, another lie leaking from the torn hymen of history. Because who on earth is brave enough to admit being half-caste is being someone else's armour? They will mock and beam in approval over and over, so the true occasion for sanctuary is never born. We are not that different despite skin colour or rank. Who can take from us what we cherish most, unmistakable as the dark, ragged ink of the clouds, or the scent of fresh air after rain? Years melt, the words vanishing in smog like Waterloo's taxis. I cannot say precisely why it feels quite so. Maybe the certainty of this diasporic unmaking, knowing the voice I have cherished belongs. The city slinks, snow is mute, numb as my teeth. Snow is the dirty white music of suffering. Only to linger, to watch the muddy swans shuffle from a polluted lake, joggers walk running while lovers neck and dogs defecate, to watch a row of brick houses with twin chimneys reflect in the pond at twilight. There is a rickshaw parked outside Birkbeck, a bicycle chained to the paling. The tube is billowing with an ache as commuters return to the brown-coloured suburbs, as a woman in a sari ambles along the sinking jetty. Trust me.
Oh, only for so short a while you have loaned us to each other, because we take form in your act of drawing us, and we take life in your painting us, and we breathe in your singing us. But only for so short a while have you loaned us to each other, because even a drawing cut in obsidian fades, and the green feathers, the crown feathers of the quetzal bird lose their color, and even the sounds of the waterfall die out in the dry season. So we too, because only for a short while have you loaned us to each other. That's an Aztec prayer. Only for a short while we are loaned to each other. We never see each other as we are. We never know each other as we are. We can only see reflections of ourselves in each other's eyes. We can only hear echoes of our own voices inside our heads. Never the voice another hears, never the face another sees, never the life another lives. We never show each other our lives in full for fear. We're afraid our own sadness will engulf you, and we love you, so want to spare you that. We never tell each other of the father nearly tarred and feathered, of the universities our uncles and aunts couldn't enter, of the brother who was lynched, of the illegitimate children hidden in plain sight, of the abandonments and betrayals that gave birth to them, of growing up black hillbillies with loads of books, smart, viper-tongued and beautiful. Minds so sharp, outsiders can only be cut to pieces. That's what outsiders are for. You passed it all down to us, the infallible eye for the expensive, the unquenchable ambition, the expansive intellects. Smart, viper-tongued and beautiful, marching through Cambridge and Princeton and Yale. We are the future our great-grandparents couldn't dream of. Not the indigenous, not the immigrant, not the colonizer nor the colonized, not the Native American slavers, nor the East Coast slaves. We are the future they never knew could happen. We are the distillation of all their longing, the brilliant generation, crystallized perfection, lawyers and chemists and poets and artists and playwright, a single civil servant, a nod to the uncles and aunts, teachers and accountants. We are what they wished for. And I love them. Mother, grandmother, uncles and aunts. So I never tell them all the pretty prizes, all the successes, the degrees, the commissions, the scholarships, the productions, the films, the books, the every fucking thing, glittering mirages from someone else's life. Unreal. I know how that would make them feel, so I never say it. Because we are only loaned to each other for such a short while. So why not make them smile? I would not live this life again. That's what I can never tell them.
For Walter Famler. Later, in Vienna, my friend the communist would tell me of his own lost love, how he had followed her to Istanbul, only to find out that she was from one of those families, daughter of a millionaire. He had tried to be an agitator there, was involved with the Kurdish Workers' Party up in the mountains, travelled with a pistol in his rucksack. Years later, when he returned to Istanbul for a conference, she agreed to meet and picked him up from his hotel in her limousine. His colleagues were impressed. He had been the lover of the woman, now president of Turkey's Chamber of Commerce. When they had broken up, he had tried to join a Sufi monastery. My friend, the communist, believes his life could have been very different. He could have been a millionaire. Maybe you should try the Sufis again. I can't. Once refused, always refused.
I understand that you won't understand, 'cause you could never live as me. But I know what you think, 'cause I am you. You aspire to be John Wayne or Winston Churchill or the Queen, to win a crown or win the war or slaughter folks at Wounded Knee. And when we grew and learned, our heroes saw my family as the enemy. Well, you could just ignore such facts, 'cause you could never live as me. We had the biggest empire, you're white, they're red and blue. We are the cleverest, the bravest and most worthy, point is proved. But when it dawned on us, the blood we drink is how the empire grew. It was easier to ignore the guilt, I know, 'cause I am you. When they say muddy-coloured people are polluting our white country and there's something in their blood that makes them indolent and ugly, you don't have to sift the ashes of your old identity to understand how you agreed with them, 'cause you could never live as me. Obama changed the narrative, so now what we accrue is all attributive to what the individual may choose. Institutions trumping history, they're easy to refuse. You want to think that we're all colourblind, I know, cause I am you. You will never feel that everything you say and do and be is being observed and compared and judged uncompromisingly and deemed innate to all who shared your shade throughout all human history. This burden's never crossed your mind, cause you could never live as me, and logic seems to state that if we gain, you surely lose, even if that gain was only some brief mention in the news, or a few flimsy attempts to be more honest in their schools. But if I truly gain, it's your gain too, I know, cause I am me and you. So stop and think, get real, this thing is nowhere near through. Never doubt you have my love though, you should know, cause I am you. And I will stop and feel and understand that blame won't help us breathe. And I will speak, but will you listen? Because you could never live as me.
Imagine an elephant wearing a top hat, except you don't have to imagine it, as that is exactly what is happening in the Raj recreation big tent, arriving on a blasted heath near you quite soon, in a secure, socially distanced manner, of course. I mean, who does not want to see an isosceles triangle that thinks it's a continent but can't even manage to keep a dragon jaded, instead become all super streamlined at warp speed into a future in which it incarnates itself as progress maximised, and then wraps it all in licenses, and tops it with a taxing bow? Meanwhile, the audience in ones and ones, chunters and guffaws under Union Jack face masks, pausing only to wonder how a bloke wearing a cloth of salt had enough gab to give up the place, before stuffing some more coronation chicken into their India Pale Ale, and then, wahey! What's a black hole, a famine or two, a cricket test between friends? Odd how each of those started with the policy diktat, what happens when they're not quite right for us? That's the thing about making the world pink. You leave everything tender, scarred, and flaking. Still, what a show, eh?
It's the mid-afternoons that drag. The early promise of the day is wasted and it's the same old ruddy faces. It's not even that they're bad people, it's just that blokes like me, we don't do therapy. She's heard it all. The job, wife, kids, team. Her keeping that grin takes more than the odd gin. Cleaning the glasses and bottling never stops, but at least there's a sparkle to a glass. What's in the bottle might be a good time. But this ain't the young crowd of an evening. This is the relentless tick of the clock, rattle of prescription medication, self-reflection in the mirror where you know not to catch anyone's eye. It's the optimism that's the worst. It always starts so well. Cheers, a bit of a joke. From there on, the glass is half empty. It's cold out and warm in. The cafe windows are steamed up. This claustrophobia pulls close. Opposite, Amar has seen off for full English. No bacon, extra sausage. There are lines we cross, but only so far. He takes out his phone and photos his empty plate, still swilled with sauce. I look on, puzzled. Amar looks up and smiles. It's just not right to send a picture of a full plate of food to me mum. She's still a refugee, but an empty one. Well, she knows I'm okay.
When Libra gets to the cocktail party, she digs into her pleather handbag for her gift and finds she's only brought the stars, crumbled blue cheese, ash stink of them. She excuses herself, floats to the bathroom, locks the door, but the window's open and her mother, the sky, slips in to spy on her, criticise her sun-coloured blouse, loud blonde hair. Libra always has clean socks, irons her underwear, but no one cares. She haunts the edges of the room, troubled by her moony face in the flicker of a lifted wine glass or held in the lens of someone else's eyes. She cannot leave a conversation, so she talks until tight smiles become excuses, gazes drift over her shoulder. Would you dance with her? In your arms, she'd cleave to your shape, merge with your shadow. She's so polite, but she weighs herself down with empty bottles, gold fizzing liquid, hoping to anchor the kite of her heart. So eager. It's not her fault she smells of old clouds and aeroplane trails. Would you hold her hand? Would you take her home if you thought she wrote this?
A cruel nakedness. When money was just as good as cash, we sat by the curb and shook our cups. We held signs against our chests. Signs with words no one took time to read. It was as if we were writers hanged upside down after a revolution. Our bodies twisting between the earth and sky, as if the old order of things could once again survive or take flight. A few coins placed in a hand becomes the first line of a prayer. A glance or hello is a hymn of salvation. But each day, we fail to return kindness to the world. Strangers past strangers, afraid of blood or bond. There's a cruel nakedness among people that is already visible to the touch. How alone we live before we die.
This morning stretches into a visa line across Damascus. This morning stretches into a visa line across Damascus, and the horizon still unforgiving. We hold open passports and scars. There are legal documents to trace our goodbyes. There are suitcases stuffed with ash. This morning stretches into a visa line across Damascus to Athens, and the horizon still unforgiving. We hold open passports and scars. There are legal documents. There are always legal documents to trace our goodbyes. There are suitcases stuffed with ash. Across the gates, they look beyond us. Across the gates, they still look beyond us. And the line wraps neatly around the corner, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait. We're not quite right, you see. We're not quite right. The smell of escape is in our bones. Our teeth not shiny enough. We're not quite right. The smell of escape in our bones. Our teeth not shiny enough. And this morning continues to stretch into visa lines, unforgiving and absolute, into visa lines, unforgiving and absolute, head down in surrender. There are no fig trees or hills to hold us anymore. We run from earth to water to silent skies. There are no fig trees or hills to hold us. We run from earth to water to silent skies. But we're not quite right. No matter what we do, we're not quite right. For the soldier who watches gates, the official who inspects, the welfare officer who checks, we're not quite right. For the soldier who watches gates, for the official who inspects and inspects and inspects, and the welfare officer who checks and double checks and double checks. Just how an extra loaf of bread made its way to our table. Just how an extra loaf of bread made its way to our table. Across the gates. Across the gates, they look beyond us, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait.